Hey everyone, my name is Sid Chakravarthy, the founder and CEO of Statvic. And today we're going to share some insights from our work in the field around what's happening in the vaccines world, especially with COVID-19 vaccines, supply chains, and how we are basically using our technology to solve some of the challenges around it. Um, so everyone's been waiting for a vaccine, right? So it's been a long year. I think there's still a few more months left before we actually see a vaccine get approved for safe distribution. But there are bigger problems ahead in terms of distribution. So we've been so far only talking about, hey, when will the vaccine be discovered? When will it be tested? But the actual vaccine world has a lot of issues with it. So you will be very surprised when you hear in the news that one out of four vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines especially, is getting spoiled before it reaches you, and you'll be. I mean, this could be sad news because if I mean, most likely what we are going to end up having is a shortage of vaccines. So not everyone is going to get vaccines as soon as they are out. There will be a tremendous shortage. So most governments will be issuing vaccines in a phase by. So the frontline workers um, uh, and other people who are for whom the vaccines are more needed, so they will be getting them first, and then each government will decide on how the vaccines would be distributed. Um, so the big problem is, so we have never distributed a product at this scale before, never in our human history. So we are like 7 billion people all needing one product, and this has never happened before. And hopefully, so not in such a situation would happen in the future, but we are here. So I mean, this is the biggest supply chain feat that we have ever seen. So with 7 billion people, and we would need anywhere between 10 to 19 or 20 billion doses of vaccine distributed for these for all the people on earth. The reason, so let me explain how we get to that number, right? um, so vaccines usually are given in two doses. So you get an actual vaccine, then you get a booster shot, which improves the chance of building immunity. So those are like one of the reasons why the immediate number can get doubled from 7 billion to 14 billion. Now, if you add failures on top of it, for example, so it is known that 30% of the vaccines get spoiled in the supply chain. In some countries, it's a lot more. In some countries, it's a lot less. But on an average, it's 30% get spoiled. So then you're talking about much more doses of vaccine needed. So the vaccine failures is a huge problem. It's already been a huge problem in the vaccines world, uh, but with COVID-19, this can become a particularly big issue. Um, so why do these failures happen? So the vaccine supply chains are extremely complex, right? So the ingredients, which are called active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are needed for making a vaccine, they mostly come out of China. Um, and After these ingredients are created, a lot of manufacturing, so the finished product, which is a vaccine, is created. For example, India is the largest manufacturer of vaccines. Nearly 60% of global volume today of vaccines get manufactured in India. And after this, the distribution happens in a completely different way based on where you are, right? So if you are in a high income country, so the countries procure directly from the manufacturers. If you are in a low income and middle income country, organizations like UNICEF and Gavi work together in procuring those vaccines and distribute them in all those countries. After that they reaches the hospitals and clinics and immunization camps where you can get these vaccines delivered to the people. So, and the price you pay is also depends on where you live. In higher income countries, usually the countries prefer to pay more. In the lower income and middle income countries, since they pool the demand under one umbrella, so the negotiated price is at much lower um, cost. To just give a perspective, COVID-19 vaccine could cost anywhere between $3 to $5 in lower income countries. In high income countries, this can go up to like all the way from $10 to $20 a piece. And this is just a high level view, right? So what I shared is just, hey, like from manufacturers to distributors to the immunization camps, and then finally to the consumers. But there's an entire network of logistics in between, taking the product from one country to another country through airports, trucks, and warehouses. So this is as complex as it can get. So, because of this complexity, there are few failures in the supply chain. One is the temperature failure. For most COVID-19 and other vaccines, we're looking at a temperature range of 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. So, if the product is exposed to high temperatures or low temperatures beyond this temperature range for a very long time, then the vaccine is spoiled, right? So it loses its efficacy, and even if you give it to a person, I mean, it doesn't it's not effective. Then there are expired products. So with so much demand with COVID-19 vaccine, this might not be a big problem, but it can be a problem if the COVID-19 vaccines don't have a lot of expiry when they are getting manufactured. So the problem with that is because we are creating this vaccine so quickly, it has not reached its mature stage in the manufacturing. So the product might get expired within a few days. We are talking about a biotechnology product, which means it usually has living organisms in it, or it's some sort of chemical component, protein component. So these products might have a very low shelf life, so that can be a big problem. And counterfeit products. So I think this is going to be a big issue, and with the vaccines world, especially with COVID, it has been a big issue with the vaccines world and pharmaceutical world. But I think with COVID-19, this is going to be a bigger issue because whenever there is shortage, there will be fake products in the market, and it's very hard to it's going to be very hard to fight some of these issues. So luckily, we started working in this space 4 years ago. So I moved back to India from I was working in Bay Area before. So after my last company got acquired, so I moved back to India. And I've been working in India for a while, mostly in the rural economies. But in 2018, our work got recognized by UNICEF. So we received UNICEF Innovation Fund and then we started working with UNICEF. So the work with UNICEF is important because UNICEF is the largest distributor of vaccines. So they distribute nearly 4 billion doses of vaccines worldwide, in nearly 120 countries. So working with them has basically enabled us to take our product from a conceptual stage to a full-scale deployment ready model. So that has been very useful because, as you know, a lot of blockchain projects, especially in the supply chains, have always remained in this conceptual stage, and they have never basically moved on beyond that. But the setup was ideal for us because the way UNICEF and the vaccines world deals is it's a public delivery product. So a lot of governments are involved. There's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of corruption. There's product changing hands several times. So it was an ideal environment for us to deploy this solution and test it out. So far we've been doing great work. So we UNICEF invested in us again this year, and we've been working with some countries very actively in helping them out with COVID-19 vaccine supply chains, especially in India as well. So we've been shortlisted by government to use our solution for COVID-19 track and trace, and we're currently deploying in one of the states called Telangana. So since we were focused in the vaccine supply chains from the beginning, we established a relationship, key partnerships with two organizations, UNICEF and Gavi. Gavi is another big organization. So the way Gavi and UNICEF work with each other is Gavi procures the vaccines and UNICEF delivers them. So together they distribute nearly 80% of the global vaccines by volume. So okay, so like what was the problem, right? So here's where I'm getting into nuts and bolts of the vaccine supply chain. As I said, the vaccine supply chains are complex. The systems that are used to track vaccine supply chains are even more complex. So there's a bunch of different tools existing in the vaccines world. So everyone is using different system, trying to record data at every touch point. So this creates a lot of it's a mess of data silos, to be really honest. So no one really has any picture of where the product is. Now, if you don't know where the product is and where how it how, or if you find a product and you can't tell how it reached there, whether it was stored and transported in right conditions, then you're basically there's no way to prevent some of the data. So that's what so that's causing a lot of issue. And beyond that, the overall structure of the supply chains has also been very linear, as you can see in the previous sheet. So what happens is, at every point you're basically taking care of the product after it reaches you. So since there are no systems to provide you heads up in terms of, hey, you're going to receive this product, this is how you have to store and maintain it, and this is how you have to basically handle it. And so since you don't have that information, it becomes very tough for the supply chains to work very efficiently. Let me check time just quickly to see. Not Okay, so still have 15 minutes. Okay, great. So with COVID-19, I mean, this can be a huge problem because, first of all, COVID-19 itself disrupted supply chains. We don't have enough raw material. For example, so most of the vaccines get stored. To store vaccines, right, you need glass and rubber. So glass is used to make the vials for storing the vaccines, and the rubber for like using it as a stopper, right? Today we don't have enough enough of those raw materials to store all the vaccines that we will need, right? So even forgetting about the vaccines for a second, we don't have enough material to store them, even if we end up creating so much volume of product. So what we would have to look at is new methods of, hey, how do we like store them in bulk and distribute them in bulk? So which would be like 1,000 vials of vaccines all into one package, and you try to distribute them until the last mile, and someone at the hospital level basically uses that to share it to all the people. Obviously, with COVID-19, social distancing has also impacted manufacturing, so that there's a lot of money being spent by governments in the COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing. So it's probably not a big uh, not such a big issue from monetary perspective, but more from a capacity and efficiency perspective. And there's a lot of other issues overall. So these all can be basically prevented. So that is where we come in, right? So, oops, sorry, I jumped a slide. So, we developed a product called Vaccine Ledger. What it does is basically takes a product centric view. So earlier supply chain systems were all focused on, hey, can I track this truck, or can I track this ship, which is containing a product, or a container containing this goods. So we basically took a different view. Hey, can we, if we track a product at a unit level, then we can track it from the manufacturer all the way to the person who is going to receive it, because we have a unique identifier for each product. Now, as it moves along the supply chain, we can tag data along it. So we, what we did is basically assign digital IDs for every dose of vaccine. And so one of the things that made our life very easy is regulations on the pharmaceutical side. So US FDA has been pushing regulations, and I mean, we have similar regulations in Europe and other places, but what they were basically pushing is to print serial numbers or QR codes or any unique identifier at a unit level, so at a dose level. So every vaccine vial will have a unique identifier. So now that becomes easy for us, because we can take that as and replicate that as a digital ID on our software, and we can tag data whenever it's recorded against it. Now, that's very simple to say, but hard to execute, because products are grouped and ungrouped at several times in the supply chain, right? So you don't see a vaccine traveling on its own. You always basically find it with other products in a different packaging format at any given point in the supply chain. So what we basically build is an aggregation and disaggregation layers on top of these digital IDs, which would automatically group and ungroup the serial numbers and create a parent-child relationship, right? So that so you scan the outer, it could be a scan, it could be like using a mobile app, or an automated scan, or it could be some sort of sensor, but it doesn't matter. But if you capture the data at an outer layer, it basically maps all the serial numbers inside, so that you are automatically linking all the information at a different stages in the supply chain. So that what that does is basically improve visibility of the products as they move across the supply chain. So we know, hey, where in which country the product is, a particular serial number is, how it reached from a national level to state level, and then moving at a county level. So we basically get a deep visibility on how the product is moving, where exactly it is, what condition it is in. So that gives us a lot of that data gives us a lot of insights to prevent some of the failures by taking real-time decisions. So that's our solution. So what we do, we have had a tremendous support from a lot of organizations worldwide. So we've been so right now, because of COVID-19, we're kind of in the right place at the right time, and we're very lucky that we have a solution which can solve some of the major problems with the vaccine supply chains, especially around how vaccines can be fairly distributed, right? So equitable distribution of vaccines is one of the big aspects in this with COVID-19 distribution. What I mean by that is basically, if you are not ensuring that all people are getting fair distribution of vaccines, then what happens is chaos. So there will be a lot of price war, people bidding against, or even governments bidding against one another to get the vaccines first, which would basically what happens is, if it doesn't solve the problem, right? So if even if you leave 20% of the population don't get them vaccinated, there is a chance that the pro- the virus will come back again. So there's a need for basically an equitable distribution of vaccine, making sure, hey, whether you're rich or poor, belong to one race or another race, or irrespective of what your background is, so you should have equal right in terms of receiving a vaccine. So I think like blockchain can play a big role in that, because if you look at it from a simplistic point of view, it's a it's a it's a ledger, right? So it records things. So if you're ensuring that, hey, you have proper records, have a transparency built into the supply chain and the data of the supply chain, so you're making sure to some extent that, hey, there's a fair distribution happening, and there's cross checks that can be done at every layer. It's a perfect use case for blockchain and how it can be used. So yeah, I welcome you to be part of it. If you are a developer, we would be excited to have you on board, and we help us develop this product. Our solution is completely open source, and we would love to have you on board. If you are not a developer or a product manager, you have your own ideas in improving our system, please reach out to us as well. So we would be happy to have you on board as well. But if you want to also donate, I mean, these are our wallets. Please feel free to do so. We would we will be very thankful for supporting us. So yeah, thanks a lot for everyone for joining on a Sunday evening, or afternoon or morning, depends on wherever you are. For me, it's it's 5:30, around 6 a.m. in the morning in India. So, but I was very excited about this, and thanks so much for joining in. And yeah, have a good rest of the conference.